So, Dr. Lederman, thank you
Hi.
so much for being here with us today.
Thank you
I
for
really
inviting me.
appreciate your time. So, let's just start out by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm Linda Lederman. I'm professor of human communication and director of the Hugh Downs School of Human Communication at Arizona State University.
Great. Perfect. So, you conduct research, and your
I do?
research is focused on the destigmatization of alcoholism and
Yes.
addiction.
Yes.
So, can you define these terms for us? Can you define addiction and how it differs from substance use or misuse?
Sure. So I focus, as you said, primarily on alcoholism as a kind of addiction. And the interest, and I'm a communication person, so of course I pay attention to language. So all those words that you used, addiction, alcohol use, alcohol abuse, alcoholism, they're all synonyms. But the thing is, they sound like they mean different things because they carry different feelings with them. And actually, there's research that shows when you refer to somebody as an alcoholic or an addict, that that person is seen more negatively than if you say they have alcoholism. So words matter. And the words we use can carry a connotation with them. That's really what it is.
And carries a weight to those words.
That's right. It carries the weight to that. So we can have images, and some of them are more stigmatized. So the word alcoholism is less stigmatized than addict or alcoholic when we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about a person who has a reaction to alcohol that is, I think, comparable to an allergic reaction. It's something that's inherent in them. It has to do with their brain chemistry. It has to do with heredity. Actually, 1 out of 10 people who drink, that means 10% of the people who drink have alcoholism. And because of that genetic predisposition, if they drink alcohol, they are going to develop that disease. And it is a disease.
So it's a host of factors. It's genetics, it's environment, it's social, it's usage.
Yes, it's all of those things, but you could have same environment, same social, same usage, and if you don't have the genetic, you're not going to develop the disease. You could still get into trouble. You can still drink too much and drive a car in Arizona and be in a lot of trouble, which you should be. And you can get hurt. You can hurt other people. But the cause of that was simply that you had too much alcohol. Whereas for the alcoholic or the person with alcoholism, the reason they had too much alcohol is because they do not have the capacity to stop. They can't set limits for themselves.
So you said 1 in 10 people drink. So are you
1 in
seeing
10 people who drink, Yes.
become an alcoholic?
1 in 10 people who drink have alcoholism, and so they will develop the disease.
So what are the trends that you're seeing in the United States? How big of a problem is this?
It's a very big problem. Alcoholism is the third largest, it's the third, more people die from alcoholism than almost anything else, with the exception of 2 other diseases. So it's the third largest cause of death in this country. So millions of people deal with this. In fact, 1 out of every 4 families has somebody in the family who has alcoholism.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that 9 out of 10 people who drink do not have alcoholism. And this is what makes it really hard, since most people, 90% of the people who drink, do not have alcoholism, no
Right.
matter how much they drink. It makes them think there's just something wrong with that other person, that if they just drank the way I drink, then they wouldn't have the problems they have. And that one person with the alcoholism also often feels that way. It's just a weakness. If I could get stronger, if I could be more like you, then I wouldn't have this problem. And sometimes for them, it's a great relief to find out, no, it's they have a disease. It's like having an allergy.
Right.
If you have an allergy to peanuts, you can't have a peanut. And it's
Right.
not your fault.
Right.
And that's
Right.
it. It's not your fault you have it, but then you have to do something about it.
And that brings us to recovery. So what does
Yes.
that mean? And what does that process entail?
It's great. So recovery is the process in which a person learns how not to drink and how to sustain that abstinence from drinking. A person cannot recover from alcoholism, just like you cannot recover from an allergy to something. but you can put it in remission. And that's
Mm.
really what the process is.
Mm.
How do you put it in remission?
Mm-hmm.
I believe you put it in remission. First of all, you have to be able to stop drinking. If you are not chemically dependent on alcohol, you can do that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if the disease has progressed so that you have a chemical dependence, then you may need to have the professional help that helps you detoxify, which means cleanses the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
But the person has to be able to stop drinking and to stay stopped.
Mm-hmm.
They can't drink sometimes and not drink sometimes. They have to be able to stop and stay stopped. And then they have to do whatever else it is to help them sustain that. Programs like Alcoholics Anonymous or other programs like that, which are called 12-step programs,
Mm-hmm.
focus a little bit on the alcohol, but a lot on the person.
Mm.
How that person can learn to live in some different ways, how they can get to know themselves better, how they can get to come to a better relationship with themselves so that they don't have to reach for alcohol. You know, somebody without alcoholism can be stressed and have a drink to relax.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody with alcoholism has to find a different way,
Right.
whether it's meditation or a bath, you know, or a good book or a walk, but they have, or talking with friends, they have to find other ways to relax because the alcohol will start that whole syndrome going for them.
And what are some signs? So if people are having, if they're concerned about their use, what are some signs, excuse me,
Yeah,
that they should look for?
That's a really good one. I think the thing that's really the critical one is whether a person can control how much they drink.
Mm.
People think they can,
Mm-hmm.
but a really good test that we sometimes say to people is have 2 drinks a night for 10 nights. Don't skip a night. Don't have 3 one night, 1 another night. Set the limit for yourself of 2 drinks a night for 10 nights.
Mhm.
If you can do that, it probably means you do not have a problem with the alcohol. If you have alcoholism, what will start to happen, I'm going to make the comparison again to allergy to peanuts.
Right.
You know, you have some, you are going to get a reaction. And with the alcoholism, the reaction is you drink more. That's how you know. So if you can't set that limit and stay with it, it's not weakness. It's what's happened. It's in the brain and the brain chemistry and the dopamine receptor in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody with alcoholism, there's something different in that dopamine receptor. And it means once the substance is in the system, it's going to trigger that response.
Mm-hmm. Well, that seems like a pretty simple test to do. Have 2 drinks. And if you have more, then maybe that's a sign.
Well, if you tell yourself this is all I'm going to do, and you find yourself making an excuse why, well, it didn't really matter.
Right.
That probably tells you have something to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be easy to look at it. And that's why the brain may kind of fool you because you say, well, it didn't really count tonight. I'll do it tomorrow. That I'll do it tomorrow often is a tip that you weren't really able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make you weak, doesn't make you bad, doesn't make you less than. It means you have a disease. And the wonderful news is you can recover. You can be in recovery from it. Can be put into remission.
Mm-hmm. So that's for yourself. What about a friend or family member? What if you see them struggling? What can you do, if anything?
You know, the if anything is a really good point. It depends.
Yeah.
Depends on them, depends on your relationship with them. What people tend to say who study this is when somebody is ready, then they will be open to whatever it is that you do to try to reach out. And if they're not ready, whatever you try to do is really not going to help. So to some extent, it's knowing the person well enough to know and to be able to sense, will they be receptive to something?
Are they ready?
Are they ready? It's readiness, which probably is true in a lot of things, isn't it?
It is for any health change, probably.
For
That's
any
true.
health change, for any change. Yeah.
And what about professional resources? What if people want more information either for themselves or for family members? What can they do?
I think they can reach out. They can, first of all, they can go on the internet and they can look and see what resources they are. They can look for 12-step programs like AA. They can look for professional facilities that treat and diagnose. If they're college students, like the people I work with, they can look to see in their own college or university, like Arizona State, what the health services offer. what the counseling services offer. There are a host of professionals who really work to try to help people with alcoholism, regardless of their age. And I think that's the other thing. You asked how widespread it is. Sometimes we have the image that it's only older people, particularly older men.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that anybody of any age, whether they're high school students, college students, senior citizens, this is a brain chemistry thing that affects 1 in 10 people who drink, regardless of their age.
It doesn't discriminate.
Does not discriminate.
Thank you, Dr. Lederman, so much for being here today.
Thank
and sharing
you for
your
having
wisdom.
me today. And thank you for letting me talk about this really important topic.
Thank you.
Thanks.